Throughout ancient and modern history, empires and people from different areas around the world occupied the historic land of Palestine and settled in it. People from diverse cultures and backgrounds succeeded one another, leaving a trace for them and influencing others by their cultures and beliefs. Modern Palestinian identity has taken shape under the influence of the various civilizations that regned over the historic land of Palestine. Palestinians are stateless people searching for their rights. The historical land of Palestine was divided into two states by the United Nations in 1947. In 1948, the State of Israel was created on the majority of the Palestinian land. The West Bank, including East Jerusalem and Gaza, became under the Jordanian and Egyptian control until being occupied by the Israeli military in 1967 following the Six-Day War. The creation of the State of Israel in 1948 generated the largest population of refugees still unsettled since World War II, with the longest displacement in modern history. The displacement of and the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people in 1948 is known today as the Palestinian Nakba. Today, over 5 million Palestinian people are identified as refugees and living in refugee camps in Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Palestinian refugees are people whose normal place of residence was Palestine between June 1946 and May 1948, who lost both their homes and means of livelihood as a result of the 1948 Arab-Israeli conflict, and their descendants. The UN Work Agency registered in 1950 over 750,000 refugees. In 2011, they had over 5 million Palestinian refugees registered under the agency. Over 1.4 million registered refugees live in 58 recognized refugee camps in Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and the Gaza Strip, and the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Customary international law, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the UN resolutions, in addition to the Fourth Geneva Conventions, all support the Palestinian people's right to return to their land. The denationalization of Palestinians is illegal and a violation of customary international law principles of non-discrimination because it was based on race and ethnic origins. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights states that everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. The UN Resolution 194 resolves that the refugees wishing to return to their homes and live at peace with their neighbors should be permitted to do so at the earliest possible date, and that compensations should be paid for the property of those choosing not to return. The United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3236 reaffirms also the inalienable right of the Palestinians to return to their homes and property from which they have been displaced and uprooted, and calls for their return. The Fourth Geneva Convention also states that individual or mass forcible transfers, as well as deportation of protected persons from occupied territory to the territory of the occupying power or to that of any other country, occupied or not, are prohibited regardless of their motives. Israeli leaders and officials deny up to this day the Palestinian people's right to return. 63 years ago, David Ben-Gurion, the first Israeli prime minister, said, "We must do everything to ensure they, the Palestinians, never do return," assuring the Israeli people that Palestinians will never come back to their homes. He also stated that the old will die and the young will forget. Today, 63 years later, the Palestinian people insist on protecting their right to return and to pass this right one generation to another. The Palestinian-Israeli conflict is more than a conflict of borders. It is different than all other occupations and even colonizations the history has recorded. It's a conflict between two nations on their right to exist on this piece of land. It's a conflict over the ownership of the land and the historical connections between each nation and the land. In order to protect the Palestinian people's rights, and most importantly, the right of return, it is essential to keep the connection between the people and the land. One of the most important ties between a nation and their land is the cultural tie. Preserving this cultural relationship will have significant effects on the political aspect, which may seem like the more apparent one. Palestinian culture and folklore comprises many aspects from literature, music, clothes and embroidery, paintings, dance, and others. I will focus on the Palestinian dance, which is called the dabka.
مد ايديك يا مريم مد ايديك يا هي نادي خياتك يا مريم نادي خياتك يا هي قومي تانا حطب يا مريم قومي تانا حطب يا هي حناتي مرطب يا مريم
Dabka is the Palestinian traditional folkloric dance. The Palestinian dabka is very similar to the Lebanese, Syrian, Jordanian, and even Iraqi dabka. Palestinian men and women hold hands in circles and dance together in weddings, celebrations, and national events. The debka is not only danced in celebrative ways. There are many debka performances and events that remind people in their struggle against oppression and encourage them to resist and unite. Some of the many dance troupes that perform around the world today display artistic dances that reflect the Palestinian people's roots to their homeland. The dance pieces tell the history, struggle, and aspiration of the Palestinian people. Palestinian traditional songs accompanies the traditional debka. All the occasions in Palestinian people's daily lives have their own traditional songs. There are songs for weddings, planting and harvesting, and even funerals and martyrs. Different songs treat different aspects of life as love, patriotism, wisdom, and others. Many songs have different versions that are sang in different occasions. You hear people singing the Dal'ona or Zarif al-Tul at weddings or martyrs' funerals with different words. Popular traditional songs usually tell stories about the Palestinian people and their struggle. Zarif al-Tul, for example, speaks about a tall man and tells different stories about him depending on the occasion. Another example is Dal'ona, which resembles a Palestinian young lady and also tells different stories about her. In many occasions, you can hear songs that combine Dal'ona and Zarif al-Tul and describes them as lovers who were separated by the war and occupation.
يا مرحبا بكو مرحبا يا وريحة التيابكو محلبا يا وعيني تشوفكم من بعيد يا وقلبي يقولكو مرحبا
مساك بالخير واحنا توينا جينا
مساك بالخير واحنا توينا جينا
تنزهز الكلب ونروح لهالينا
تنزهز الكلب ونروح لهالينا.
The Art of Freedom cultural group was created by a group of students in the Ohio State University. It was established first as a project, without any long-term goals. The only goal was to train a group of young students from the Committee for Justice in Palestine and the Palestinian Solidarity Movement on performing a couple traditional debka dances for an event on OSU campus. After the success of the group's first performance, with over 200 people attending the event, the group decided to continue with its activities and to start on new projects. Today, after a year of its establishment, the group almost doubled its members. It also added a new ingredient to its performance and cultural work, which is a full-length play about the Palestinian cultural figures, Dal'ona, Darif, Mash'al, as well as other figures.
نزف الاسمر ظريف الطول قديش اجا وتمرمرت روحه كانت عينيكو دمع في جروحه كانت منازلكو احجارها عظمه بساتينكو جسمه لم الألم منه صنع ألغام شباكته كسرها ما عادت تقول أنغام مع إنه كان طول النهار يكتب أشعار ويغنيها عتابة وميجنة ويكتب اسمه يكتب رسمه عالدور رجع لك يا بلادي منصور ويقول راجع ظريف الطول.
I see the group as a much bigger project than just dancing and singing. It's a project to teach and educate Palestinians and Arabs living away from their countries and homes about their culture and heritage. This will strengthen the connections between the people and their land, history, and heritage. We also intend to go out to campuses as well as other universities and cities in the country to present our work to the people, not just Arabs and Palestinians. Reaching out to the American people to teach them about the Palestinian people and their culture is a very critical thing for the Palestinian solidarity movement. This proves that Palestinians exist and have a rich history and culture. It responds to all the politicians who deny this fact and who intend to describe Palestinians as invented people, or not even recognizing their existence and connections with the full historical land of Palestine. My personal long-term goal for the group is to continue on expanding, adding new members, covering more aspects from the Palestinian culture, and reaching out to more and more members of the community. Hopefully, the Art of Freedom Cultural Group will one day become the Art of Freedom Cultural Center that teaches all people from different ages and backgrounds the Palestinian culture and the Palestinian heritage. Hopefully, it will one day be able to fully represent the Palestinian and Arab community in the region. We dance for freedom, dignity, peace, and equality, and we dance for our rights, the Palestinian people's rights, and above them all, our right to return.
فلسطيني عرفت الجوع والحرمان، فلسطيني عرفت القهر والأحزان وكل مصائب الإنسان، ولم تغلب موازيني فلسطيني. تجرعت الحصى لبنا، تجرعت الحصى لبنا، حملت الجرح لي وطنا، وكبت الأسى زمنا، وكبت الأسى ألوان، ولم تنضب شراييني فلسطيني.